Welcome to League of Legends Facts. Get comfortable, relax, and let's explore the world of Runeterra together. Whether you're here to learn something new or just drift off to the stories of champions and legends, you're in the right place. The beginning of League of Legends was released on October 27, 2009. But the story begins earlier than that. The game was created by a small team at Riot Games, a company founded by Brandon Beck and Mark Merrill. They were inspired by Defense of the Ancients, a custom map for Warcraft 3, and wanted to create a standalone game in that genre. The original roster had only 40 champions at launch. Today, there are over 160. That first roster included champions like Ashe, Annie, Ryze, and Twisted Fate. Some of these champions have been reworked multiple times over the years, but they remain part of the game's foundation. Interestingly, Riot Games started with just a handful of employees. The company has since grown to thousands of people across multiple offices worldwide. But in those early days, everyone wore multiple hats. Designers would test the game, programmers would give feedback on champion abilities, and everyone pitched in to make League of Legends a reality. The world of Runeterra, League of Legends, takes place in a world called Runeterra. This isn't just a random battleground. It's a fully realized world with continents, nations, cultures, and thousands of years of history. Over the years, Riot has expanded the lore dramatically, turning what was once a simple game into a rich universe. Runeterra has several major regions. There's Demacia, a kingdom built on order, justice, and the suppression of magic. Its gleaming white walls and golden armor represent their ideals. But beneath the surface, there's prejudice and fear of those born with magical gifts. Then there's Noxus, Demacia's rival. Noxus is an expansionist empire that values strength above all else. Unlike Demacia's discrimination against mages, Noxus welcomes anyone who can prove their worth in battle. It's a meritocracy, but a brutal one. If you're strong enough, you can rise from nothing to command armies. If you're weak, you're discarded. Ionia is a land of natural magic and spiritual balance. It's inspired by Eastern Asian cultures and philosophy. The Ionian people lived in peace for centuries until Noxus invaded. That war changed Ionia forever, creating champions like Aurelia, who was just a young dancer before she became a resistance fighter, and Zed, who embraced forbidden shadow magic to defend his homeland. Freljord is the frozen tundra to the north. 3 major tribes vie for control. The Avarosan, led by Ashe, who seeks unity through peaceful alliance. The Winter's Claw, led by Sejuani, who believes only the strong deserve to survive. And the Frost Guard, led by Lysandra, an ancient ice witch with secrets that go back thousands of years. Champion origins: Ashe, the Frost Archer. Let's talk about specific champions, starting with Ashe. She's been in the game since day one and is often the first champion new players try. Ashe is the leader of the Avarosan tribe in the Freljord. She's married to Tryndamere, the barbarian king, in a political marriage that united their tribes. Ashe's weapon is a bow made of true ice, a magical ice that never melts. According to the lore, true ice is incredibly rare and powerful. It's connected to ancient magic from the Freljord's past. Ashe discovered her bow in a dangerous quest, proving herself worthy to lead her people. Her gameplay design is interesting too. Ashe was one of the original AD carries, and her kit has remained relatively simple over the years. Her passive causes her attacks to slow enemies, making her one of the best champions for kiting. Her ultimate enchanted crystal arrow is a global skill shot that can stun enemies from across the map. Many professional games have been decided by a single clutch Ashe arrow. Annie, the Dark Child. Annie is one of League's most iconic champions. She's a little girl with incredible pyromantic powers and a teddy bear named Tibbers. But Annie's story is darker than you might think. Annie was born in the Noxian countryside. Her mother had fire magic, which she tried to keep hidden in a society that might have exploited or feared her powers. When Annie was born, it became clear she had inherited even stronger magical abilities. Fire would spontaneously appear around her when she had tantrums or got excited. Annie's father tried to help her control her powers, but tragedy struck. Different versions of the lore have been released over the years, but the core remains. Annie's powers manifested in a catastrophic way, and people around her were hurt. Her parents gave her Tibbers, the teddy bear, which somehow helps channel and contain her magic. Tibbers isn't just a toy. When Annie summons him in-game, he becomes a massive flaming bear demon. In the lore, Tibbers seems to have some kind of consciousness or spirit bound within it. Annie talks to Tibbers like a friend, and there are hints that Tibbers might be protecting her, or perhaps containing something even more dangerous. From a game design perspective, Annie was specifically created to be easy for new players to learn. Her abilities are straightforward: a fireball, a cone of fire, a shield, and her ultimate that summons Tibbers. But she's remained viable even at high levels of play because of her stun mechanic. Every fourth spell Annie casts will stun enemies, creating a mini-game of tracking her passive stacks. Rise, the Rune Mage. Rise has been reworked more times than almost any other champion. He's had at least 5 major gameplay updates, making him a sort of running joke in the community. But his lore has remained relatively consistent. Rise is ancient. He's hundreds of years old, kept alive by the magical runes he's sworn to protect. In Runeterra's past, there were world runes, artifacts of immense power left over from the creation of the world. These runes could reshape reality itself, and wars fought with them nearly destroyed Runeterra. Rise witnessed the destruction caused by these runes. His master sacrificed himself to stop one such catastrophe, and Rise took on the burden of finding and hiding all the world runes so they could never be used in war again. He's been walking Runeterra for centuries, a lonely immortal searching for these dangerous artifacts. His blue skin isn't natural. It's a result of exposure to the magical runes he carries. The tattoos covering his body are actually runic scripts that help him channel and control incredible magical power. Despite his strength, Rise rarely uses his full power because he knows how dangerous magic can be. He's seen it destroy civilizations. In the game, Rise is known as a scaling champion. He starts relatively weak, but becomes incredibly powerful in the late game, with enough items and levels. His difficulty ceiling is extremely high, which is why he's been reworked so many times. Riot struggles to balance him for average players, while keeping him from being overpowered in professional play. The Summoner's Rift. The map where most League of Legends games take place is called Summoner's Rift. It's had several visual updates over the years, but the basic layout has remained the same since launch. 3 lanes, a jungle area between them, and 2 bases on opposite corners. In the early lore, the matches on Summoner's Rift were actually canon. They were part of something called the League of Legends, an organisation where disputes between nations were settled through magical combat rather than war. Champions were summoned to fight on behalf of their nations or causes. Players were summoners who controlled these champions. Riot eventually moved away from this lore because it limited their storytelling. If every champion had to be willing to fight in the League, it restricted their character development. Now the lore exists separately from the gameplay. The stories of champions unfold in Runeterra itself, not on the Rift. But Summoner's Rift still has lore of its own. The creatures that inhabit it, the jungle camps, the Baron Nashor, the dragons, all have backstories. The map is located somewhere in Runeterra, though exactly where has been kept intentionally vague. Baron Nashor. Speaking of Baron Nashor, let's talk about this iconic monster. Baron spawns at 20 minutes in the river pit north of the mid lane. Killing Baron grants your team a powerful buff that enhances minions and gives bonus stats. Many games are decided by Baron fights. The name Nashor is actually Roshan spelled backwards. Roshan is the equivalent monster in Dota, the game that inspired League. This was Riot's way of paying homage to their roots. Baron Nashor is described as a massive serpentine creature, possibly related to Rift Heralds or other ancient beasts that once roamed Runeterra. Over the years, Baron has been updated visually multiple times. His model has become more detailed, his animations more threatening. But his gameplay purpose remains the same, a high-risk, high-reward objective that teams must contest in the mid to late game. Interestingly, Baron's difficulty scales throughout the game. Early Baron attempts are extremely risky and require significant team coordination. Later in the game, teams can kill Baron more easily, but by then, the enemy team is more likely to contest it, leading to massive team fights. The dragons of Summoner's Rift dragons are another crucial objective in League of Legends. Unlike Baron, dragons spawn throughout the game starting at 5 minutes. Each dragon grants a different permanent buff to the team that slays it. The dragon system has evolved significantly over the years. Originally, there was only one type of dragon that gave gold and experience. Then Riot introduced elemental dragons: Infernal, Mountain, Ocean, and Cloud. Each provides different benefits. Infernal increases your damage output. Mountain gives you extra damage against objectives like towers and Baron. Ocean provides health and mana regeneration. Cloud grants movement speed. Later, they added even more complexity. Hextech and Chemtech dragons were introduced, though Chemtech was eventually removed due to balance issues. The map itself changes based on which dragon soul is spawning. If Infernal Drakes are dominant, brush burns away and new pathways open. Ocean Soul causes vegetation to grow, creating additional hiding spots. The Dragon Soul is obtained after a team secures 4 dragons. Each soul provides a powerful effect. Infernal Soul gives you an area of effect explosion after dealing damage. Ocean Soul grants massive sustain, making it nearly impossible to poke that team down. These souls can completely change how teamfights play out. Elder Dragon is the final dragon that spawns after a team claims Dragon Soul. Elder Dragon doesn't give a permanent buff. Instead, it provides a temporary buff that makes all your attacks execute low-health enemies. It's often the final objective contested before one team ends the game. Twisted Fate, the Card Master. Twisted Fate is one of League's most stylish champions. He's a gambler, a conman, and a master of card magic. His real name is Tobias Felix, and he comes from the city of Bilgewater, a pirate haven built on a chain of islands. Twisted Fate wasn't always magical. He grew up as a regular street kid, learning to cheat at cards and hustle for survival. His partner in crime was a man who would eventually become Graves, another champion. The two of them pulled off cons together, robbing from wealthy merchants and corrupt officials. But Twisted Fate wanted more. He made a deal with a mysterious entity, trading his future for magical powers. Those powers manifested as his signature playing cards, which he can throw as weapons or use to teleport across the map. His cards never miss when he wills them not to, and his gold card can stun enemies from a distance. The deal Twisted Fate made came with a price. He's bound by fate now, unable to escape certain destinies. He and Graves eventually had a falling out over a job gone wrong. Graves ended up in prison, believing Twisted Fate betrayed him. The truth is more complicated, involving bad luck, worse timing, and the consequences of Twisted Fate's magical pact. In gameplay terms, Twisted Fate is known for his ultimate ability, Destiny. It reveals all enemy champions on the map and allows him to teleport anywhere. This makes him incredibly powerful for coordinated teams who can use that information to make plays across the map. Professional players have created legendary moments with perfectly timed Twisted Fate teleports. Ahri, the nine-tailed fox. Ahri is one of League's most popular champions, and for good reason. She's based on the Korean legend of the Kumiho, a nine-tailed fox spirit. In the game, Ahri is a Vastaya, a magical race that's part human, part animal spirit. Ahri's story is tragic. She wasn't always aware or intelligent. For years, she existed as a fox in the forests of Ionia, drawn to human emotions but not understanding them. When she encountered dying soldiers on a battlefield, she absorbed their final memories and life essence. This gave her intelligence and a humanoid form, but it also cursed her with an insatiable hunger. For a time, Ahri survived by consuming the life essence of anyone she encountered. She would charm them, drain them, and move on. But as she absorbed more memories, she began to understand love, fear, joy, and regret. She realized what she was doing was wrong, but she didn't know how to stop the hunger. Ahri's journey is about seeking humanity and redemption. She travels Runeterra trying to understand what it means to be human, to have a soul beyond the stolen memories she carries. She's searching for a way to satisfy her hunger without killing, and perhaps to find where she truly belongs. In the game, Ahri is a mobile mage assassin. Her kit revolves around her charm ability, which makes enemies walk toward her, helpless. Her ultimate gives her 3 dashes, making her incredibly slippery and difficult to pin down. She's been a popular pick in all levels of play since her release, with a dedicated fanbase that creates countless fan art and cosplays. The Shadow Isles. Not all of Runeterra is beautiful. The Shadow Isles are a cursed land shrouded in the black mist, a supernatural fog that kills everything it touches and transforms the dead into undead wraiths. The Isles weren't always this way. Long ago, the Shadow Isles were called the Blessed Isles. They were a paradise, home to scholars and magic users who sought to preserve knowledge from across Runeterra. The islands were protected by powerful wards that kept them hidden and safe from the outside world's conflicts. Everything changed because of a single act of desperation. A king arrived on the Blessed Isles carrying his dying queen. He demanded the scholars use their magic to save her. When they refused, explaining that resurrection magic was forbidden and dangerous, the king took matters into his own hands. He found the Waters of Life, a magical source that sustained the islands, and attempted to use it to bring back his queen. The ritual went catastrophically wrong. Instead of resurrection, it released death magic that swept across the entire island chain. Everyone died, and then they came back, twisted into undead monstrosities, doomed to exist in torment forever. That king became the ruined king, and his sorrow and rage became the driving force behind the Black Mist. His queen came back wrong, a ghostly figure he endlessly pursues, but can never truly reach. Every year the Black Mist spreads further from the Shadow Isles, threatening to engulf all of Runeterra. Thresh, the Chain Warden. Speaking of the Shadow Isles, let's talk about Thresh. He's one of the most terrifying champions in League's lore. Thresh wasn't a good person even before the Ruination. He was a warden on the Blessed Isles, tasked with guarding dangerous magical artifacts. But Thresh enjoyed his work a little too much. He would psychologically torture prisoners, finding creative ways to break their spirits. He collected their anguish like some people collect art. When the Ruination occurred, Thresh's already twisted soul found the perfect environment to thrive. The death magic transformed him into a spectre, freed from any remaining moral constraints. Now Thresh hunts souls across Runeterra. His lantern collects them, trapping consciousness in eternal torment. He doesn't do this out of necessity or orders. He does it because he enjoys it. Every soul he collects is another voice screaming in his lantern, another mind breaking under endless psychological torture. Some of League's champions have personal history with Thresh. He collected the souls of people close to them, or tortured them in the past. His presence in the game represents pure sadistic evil, a villain with no redemption arc or sympathetic backstory. He's a monster who chose to be monstrous. Gameplay-wise, Thresh is one of the most skill-expressive supports in League. His kit is entirely skill shots and requires precise timing. His hook can catch enemies from surprising angles. His lantern can save allies, or bring them into fights from across walls. His ultimate creates a pentagon of walls that slow and damage enemies. Professional support players are often judged by their Thresh mechanics. Lucian and Senna Thresh's most personal victims are Lucian and Senna, two champions whose stories are deeply intertwined. Lucian and Senna were sentinels, warriors dedicated to fighting the undead creatures that emerge from the Shadow Isles. They were also married, partners in both life and battle. During a mission to the Shadow Isles, Thresh ambushed them. Senna fought bravely, but Thresh overpowered her and trapped her soul in his lantern. Lucian watched helplessly as the woman he loved was dragged away, her screams fading into the black mist. He survived, but barely, and that moment defined the rest of his life. Lucian became obsessed with rescuing Senna. He hunted Thresh across Runeterra, seeking any way to free her from the lantern. His dual pistols, relics that he and Senna once wielded together, became instruments of vengeance. Every undead creature he destroyed brought him one step closer to confronting Thresh again. For years in the lore and in the game, Senna was just part of Lucian's backstory. Then Riot did something unprecedented. They released Senna as a playable champion, explaining that she had escaped Thresh's lantern. Her time trapped inside had changed her. She came back with power over light and darkness, able to wield both the Sentinel's sacred light and shadows absorbed from Thresh's lantern. But she also came back cursed. The black mist still clings to her. If she stops moving, stops fighting, it will consume her completely. So, Senna can never rest. She and Lucian resumed their work as sentinels, but now their fight is as much about keeping Senna alive as it is about protecting Runeterra. In the game, Lucian is a mobile marksman with incredible burst damage. His passive causes him to fire twice after using an ability, creating a unique rapid-fire playstyle. Senna, released years later, broke conventions by being a marksman who's primarily played as a support. She scales infinitely, collecting souls from enemy units to grow stronger throughout the game. Yasuo, the Unforgiven Yasuo, is one of League's most played champions, and also one of the most controversial. In game lobbies, seeing someone pick Yasuo often elicits groans from teammates. There's a running joke that your Yasuo will always feed while the enemy Yasuo will carry, but his lore is actually quite compelling. Yasuo was a talented student at a prestigious Ionian sword school. He mastered wind techniques passed down through generations, able to control air currents with his blade. His skill was unmatched among his peers, which made him arrogant and undisciplined. While his fellow students were humble and respectful, Yasuo was brash and dismissive of tradition. When Noxus invaded Ionia, Yasuo's entire school mobilized to defend their homeland, but Yasuo was ordered to stay behind and protect an Ionian elder. He chafed at this duty, believing his skills were wasted on guard duty, while his brothers and sisters fought and died on the battlefield. So when he heard that his former master was in danger, Yasuo abandoned his post. While he was gone, the elder he was supposed to protect was killed. By wind magic. Yasuo's wind magic. He was accused of murder and branded a traitor. His own brother, also a swordsman, was sent to execute him. Rather than submit to a death sentence for a crime he didn't commit, Yasuo fought back. In the duel, he killed his brother. Yasuo became a wanderer, hunted by his former allies, consumed by guilt over his brother's death and his failure to protect the elder. He knew he was innocent of the elder's murder, but had no way to prove it. For years he drifted through Ionia, drinking, fighting, and trying to outrun his past. Eventually Yasuo discovered the truth. The elder had been killed by another wind technique user, someone who framed Yasuo to cover their own crimes. This revelation didn't bring peace. His brother was still dead by his hand. The life he once had was still gone. Yasuo remains unforgiven, by others and by himself. In gameplay, Yasuo has one of the most unique kits in League. His third consecutive attack or ability on an enemy causes a tornado that knocks enemies into the air. He can then use his ultimate to teleport to airborne enemies and deal massive damage. His wind wall blocks all projectiles, which can negate entire teams' worth of abilities. Combined with his infinite dashing through minions, he's either incredibly powerful or completely useless depending on the player's skill. Zaun, the unforgotten years after Yasuo's release, Riot did something unexpected. They released Zaun as a playable champion. Zaun was Yasuo's brother, the one who died in their duel. This raised immediate questions. How is he alive? What happened after his death? The answer ties into Ionian spirit magic. When Zaun died, his soul didn't pass on peacefully. His sense of duty, his need to stop his traitorous brother, bound him to the mortal world as a spirit. But the spirit realm isn't peaceful. It's filled with Azarkana, demons that feed on negative emotions. Zaun found himself hunted by these demons. Instead of running, he fought. He defeated a powerful Azarkana and claimed its mask, binding the demon's power to himself. This transformed him into something between life and death, able to walk in both the physical and spirit worlds. When Zaun finally returned to the mortal realm, he found Yasuo, but instead of resuming their duel, they talked. Zaun learned the truth about the elder's death and Yasuo's innocence. The brothers reconciled, though the weight of their past still hangs heavy between them. Now Zaun hunts Azarkana, preventing other spirits from suffering his fate while seeking his own redemption. Zaun's gameplay is similar to Yasuo's in some ways. He's another mobile swordsman, but with distinct differences. His abilities allow him to cleave through enemies with two swords, one physical and one spiritual. His ultimate sends his spirit forward in a dash, marking all enemies he passes through, then pulling them toward where his body stands. He's become nearly as popular as his brother. Demacia's dark secret. Earlier, we talked about Demacia, the kingdom of justice and order. But Demacia has a dark secret that defines many of its champions' stories. Demacia was founded by refugees fleeing magical warfare. They saw magic destroy nations and decided to build a society where magic was forbidden. The capital of Demacia is built from petric ice, a special stone that absorbs and nullifies magic. The towering walls, the grand buildings, even the statues, all petricite. This makes Demacia a place where magic simply doesn't work, a haven for those who fear it. But here's the problem. People are born with magic. It's not a choice. Children in Demacia can manifest magical powers through no fault of their own, and when they do, they're taken away. The official story is that they're helped, taught to suppress their powers for everyone's safety. The reality is darker. Mages are imprisoned, sometimes for life. They're treated as dangerous criminals simply for existing. The magical detection is done by mage seekers, investigators who use petricite chains and weapons to hunt down anyone showing signs of magical ability. Families live in fear that their child might show powers and be taken away forever. Silas, the Unshackled. This brings us to Silas, one of Demacia's most controversial figures. Silas was born with magic in Demacia. As a child, he could sense and absorb magic from others. When the Mage Seekers discovered his powers, they saw an opportunity. They used young Silas to hunt other mages. He helped imprison his own kind, believing he was doing the right thing and protecting Demacia. But Silas eventually realized the truth. The mages he was helping capture weren't dangerous criminals. They were frightened people, families, children. He'd been weaponized against his own kind. When Silas tried to stop, when he questioned the Mage Seekers, they imprisoned him too. He spent years in chains at the bottom of Demacia's deepest prison. Petricite chains that absorbed his magic, dark cells where he couldn't see the sun, torture meant to break his spirit. But petricite doesn't destroy magic, it absorbs it. For years, Silas's power seeped into those chains. When he finally broke free, he had absorbed so much magic that he became incredibly powerful. Silas sparked a mage rebellion. He freed imprisoned mages and declared war on Demacia itself. From Demacia's perspective, he's a terrorist and traitor. From the mage's perspective, he's a freedom fighter. The truth is complicated. Silas genuinely wants to free oppressed mages, but his methods are violent and uncompromising. Innocent people die in his revolution. In the game, Silas's ability to steal ultimate abilities from enemy champions reflects his lore perfectly. He hijacks magic, using opponents' power against them. This makes him adaptable. He can have 5 different ultimates in a single game depending on what he steals. Playing Silas well requires knowing what every champion's ultimate does and when to steal which one. Lux, the Lady of Luminosity. Silas's story is directly connected to another champion, Lux. Luxana Crownguard comes from one of Demacia's most prestigious families. Her family has produced generals, heroes, and defenders of Demacia for generations. Her brother Garen is the paragon of Demacian values, a mighty warrior who leads the vanguard. But Lux was born with light magic. She's kept it secret her entire life, terrified that if anyone discovered her powers she'd be imprisoned or worse. She learned to suppress it, to hide any glow or sparkle that might give her away. The pressure of maintaining this secret while being a public figure in Demacia's high society weighs heavily on her. Lux once worked with the Mage Seekers. She would go to the prisons where mages were held and try to comfort them, believing she was helping. During one of these visits she met Silas. He was younger then, not yet the revolutionary he'd become. They talked through his cell bars. Silas recognized that Lux had magic. She couldn't hide it from someone with his abilities. For the first time in her life, Lux could be honest about what she was. Silas encouraged her, told her magic was a gift, not a curse. They formed a strange connection, 2 mages trapped by Demacia in different ways. But when Silas escaped and began his rebellion, he used knowledge he'd gained from Lux, information about Demacia's defenses, secrets she'd innocently shared. Lux feels partially responsible for Silas's revolution and the deaths it's caused. She's torn between her loyalty to Demacia and her growing understanding that Demacia's treatment of mages is wrong. She hasn't joined Silas's rebellion, but she's beginning to use her magic more openly, helping people when she can, trying to prove that mages can be heroes too. In gameplay, Lux is a long-range mage with one of the most satisfying abilities in League, her ultimate laser. It's a massive beam of light that deals damage in a line across the entire map. Landing a perfect Lux combo, binding an enemy, popping her shield and finishing with her ultimate, is incredibly rewarding. She's remained consistently popular since her release. Garen, the Might of Demacia. Lux's brother Garen represents everything Demacia stands for. He's the strong, silent type, a warrior who lets his sword do the talking. Garen leads the Dauntless Vanguard, an elite unit of Demacian soldiers who are always first into battle. Garen believes absolutely in Demacia's ideals. Justice. order, protection of the innocent. These aren't just words to him. He's personally fought to defend Demacia's borders countless times. He's saved lives, rescued civilians, and stood as an unmovable wall against every threat Demacia has faced. But Garen doesn't know his sister has magic. If he found out, it would shatter his worldview. Everything he believes about mages being dangerous, about the need to suppress magic, all of it would be challenged by the fact that his own beloved sister is a mage. This secret hangs over their relationship like a sword. There are hints in the lore that Garen suspects something. Moments where Lux has accidentally revealed too much, times when her magic flared out of control. But he hasn't confronted her directly. Whether he's in denial or choosing not to see, or whether he knows and is protecting her, remains deliberately ambiguous. Garen's relationship with Katarina, a Noxian assassin, adds another layer to his character. They're enemies on the battlefield, representing rival nations, but there's a mutual respect, possibly even attraction between them. It's another challenge to Garen's black and white view of the world. Not all Noxians are evil, just as not all Demacians are good. In the game, Garen is the definition of a beginner-friendly champion. His abilities are simple and straightforward. He spins with his sword, he has a shield, and his ultimate executes low-health enemies. But that simplicity makes him effective at all levels of play. Professional players still pick Garen when they need a reliable, tanky front line, the Freljord's 3 queens. Let's return to the Freljord, the frozen north we mentioned earlier. 3 women claim the title of queen and fight for control of this harsh land. Their conflict has shaped Freljord's recent history. Ashe, the Frost Archer, leads the Avarosan tribe. She believes the Freljord's tribe should unite peacefully, setting aside their differences to survive the harsh winter together. Ashe is compassionate and diplomatic, seeking allies rather than conquering through force. She's married to Tryndamere, uniting their tribes, and works tirelessly to bring others into her coalition. Sejuani leads the Winter's Claw. She sees Ashe's diplomacy as weakness. In the Freljord, where every winter kills the unprepared, Sejuani believes only the strong deserve to survive. She raids other tribes, taking their resources and absorbing their warriors. Her tribe is brutal but efficient, hardened by constant conflict. The third queen is Lysandra, the Ice Witch. She's far older than Ashe or Sejuani, ancient even by Freljord standards. Lysandra is blind, she lost her sight centuries ago, but sees through ice magic, perceiving the world through frozen eyes she creates. She leads the Frost Guard, a mysterious tribe that worships the old gods of the Freljord. But Lysandra has a terrible secret. Those old gods, the Watchers, are Lovecraftian entities from the void. They're frozen beneath the Freljord, imprisoned by Lysandra herself. She once served them, bringing them to Runeterra, but realized too late that they would destroy everything. So she betrayed them, using true ice magic to freeze them in suspended animation. For thousands of years, Lysandra has maintained this prison. Every act she takes, every manipulation of Freljord politics, is aimed at preventing anyone from discovering and awakening the Watchers. She allows the conflict between Ashe and Sejuani to continue, because it keeps the Freljord divided and unable to explore the deepest regions where the Watchers sleep. Braum, the heart of the Freljord. Not everyone in the Freljord is a warrior queen or ancient witch. Braum is a folk hero, a gentle giant with impossible strength and an even bigger heart. According to legend, Braum saved a child trapped on a mountainside by punching through a mountain to create a path. The door he used to shield himself and the child from the falling rocks became his signature shield. It's an actual door, ridiculously oversized, that Braum carries everywhere. He uses it to protect people, jumping in front of danger with a smile and an encouragement to stand behind him. Braum travels the Freljord helping people. He doesn't care about tribal politics or who claims to be queen. If someone needs help, repairing a roof, rescuing a lost sheep, defending a village from raiders, Braum is there. His reputation is such that tales of his deeds have spread across all of Runeterra, often exaggerated into impossible feats. But here's the thing, most of the stories are true. Braum really is that strong and that kind. He once carried an entire troll warband on his back after making peace with them. He's redirected avalanches with his bare hands. Children across the Freljord are told Braum stories, learning values of kindness and courage. In the game, Braum is a support champion who excels at protecting allies. His shield blocks projectiles, similar to Yasuo's wind wall, but as a directional shield. His passive requires multiple allies to hit the same target to trigger a stun, encouraging teamwork. Everything about his kit reinforces the fantasy of being an unbreakable guardian for your team. Ornn, the fire below the mountain. The Freljord's pantheon includes demigods, ancient spirits that embody aspects of the land itself. Ornn is one of these, the god of the forge and craft. He's a massive ram-like creature who lives inside a volcano in the Freljord, spending his centuries making items of legendary quality. Ornn is a recluse. He doesn't want followers or worship. He just wants to be left alone to work his forge. But his creations are so exceptional that they become legendary artifacts. True ice weapons, magical armor, items that last for generations, all crafted by Ornn. His siblings include Anivia, the phoenix-like spirit of the winds, and Volibear, the bear god of storms. Ornn's relationship with Volibear is especially strained. They fought long ago and their battle scarred the Freljord's landscape. Volibear represents the savage, primal side of the Freljord, strength through violence, respect through fear. He sees Ornn's craftsmanship as weakness. This conflict between Ornn and Volibear represents two philosophies of survival. Ornn believes in preparation, in building things that last, in civilization and craft. Volibear believes in raw power, in embracing your primal nature, in conquering through force. Neither is entirely right or wrong, but their conflict has shaped the Freljord's culture. In-game, Ornn is a tank who can upgrade his allies' items, making them more powerful. This references his lore as a master crafter. He can also summon a massive elemental ram that charges across the map, knocking up enemies. His abilities are about being unmovable and shaping the battlefield much like how he shapes metal. Piltover and Zaun. 2 cities, 1 foundation. Let's shift regions to talk about Piltover and Zaun. These are twin cities, built on top of each other. Piltover is the gleaming city of progress on top, filled with inventors, artists, and merchants. Zaun is the polluted undercity below, where the poor work in chemical factories and struggle to survive. They weren't always separated this way. Originally, Piltover and Zaun were one city, built around a massive canal that connected 2 seas. This canal made the city incredibly wealthy as a trade hub. Ships from across Runeterra passed through, paying tolls and trading goods. But an accident during the canal's expansion caused part of the city to collapse. Entire districts sank, creating a chasm between the upper and lower levels. The wealthy rebuilt on top, creating Piltover. The poor were left in the ruins below, which became Zaun. Over time, the 2 cities developed completely different cultures. Piltover values innovation, but safe and regulated innovation. Inventions must be approved by councils. Progress happens within rules. The city is beautiful, with Hextech technology powering clean industries and transportation. Life in Piltover is comfortable if you're wealthy or talented enough to belong. Zaun has no such regulations. Inventors experiment with dangerous chemical augmentations and unstable technologies. The air is toxic from factory runoff. But there's also a freedom in Zaun that doesn't exist in Piltover. You can be anyone, do anything, if you're willing to pay the price. Many of Runeterra's most revolutionary inventions come from Zaun, born from desperation and unrestrained creativity. Vi and Jinx, sisters in conflict. Vi and Jinx are sisters from Zaun, though their relationship is complicated and painful. They grew up as orphans in Zaun streets, part of a small group of kids who survived by stealing and pulling small heists. Vi was the older sister, protective and strong. Jinx, then called Powder, was the younger one, eager to prove herself but prone to accidents. A job went horribly wrong. The details vary depending on which version of the lore you follow. Riot has retold their story through different media, but the core remains. Powder tried to help, but her actions caused an explosion that killed their adoptive family. Vi, in her grief and anger, called Powder a jinx and walked away. That moment broke Powder. She was found by Silco, a crime lord from Zaun, who raised her as his own. But Powder was already fracturing mentally. She became Jinx, unstable, violent, and obsessed with proving she wasn't weak. She painted her hair blue, covered herself in explosive weapons, and became one of Zaun's most dangerous criminals. Vi ended up in prison, spending years locked away. When she finally got out, she found that her little sister had become a terrorist. Vi tried to reach the girl Powder used to be, but Jinx insisted that Powder was dead. Every encounter between them is tragic. 2. Sisters who love each other but can't find their way back to what they once had. Their story was expanded in Arcane, the Netflix animated series set in Piltover and Zaun. Arcane became one of the most successful video game adaptations ever made, winning multiple awards and introducing millions of people to League's lore. The show delves deep into their relationship, showing exactly how Powder became Jinx, and how Vi carries guilt for abandoning her sister. In the game, Vi is a fighter who punches through enemies with massive Hextech gauntlets. Her ultimate lets her charge through an entire team to reach a specific target. Nothing stops Vi when she's locked on. Jinx is a chaotic marksman with traps, rockets, and a minigun. Her ultimate launches a massive rocket across the map that explodes on the first champion it hits, Caitlyn, the Sheriff of Piltover. Caitlyn comes from one of Piltover's wealthiest families. She could have lived a life of luxury, attending parties and managing the family fortune. Instead, she became an enforcer, Piltover's term for police officers. More specifically, she became the sheriff, leading investigations into crimes that threaten Piltover's safety. Caitlyn is brilliant. She solves cases that baffle other enforcers, piecing together clues that others miss. Her signature weapon is a Hextech rifle that she designed herself, capable of incredible precision at long range. She can hit targets from distances that seem impossible, making her one of Piltover's most dangerous marksmen. Her greatest challenge is the criminal element coming from Zaun. Caitlyn genuinely wants to help both cities, but she operates within Piltover's legal system, which often ignores Zaun's problems. She's worked with Vi before. Their dynamic is interesting, the by-the-book sheriff, and the street-smart brawler who doesn't care about rules. Caitlyn's investigations have brought her into conflict with some of Zaun's most dangerous criminals, including Jinx. The rivalry between Caitlyn and Jinx is personal. Jinx has killed enforcers under Caitlyn's command. She's bombed locations just to taunt Caitlyn. And Caitlyn has come closer than anyone to actually catching Jinx, which Jinx finds both infuriating and thrilling. In gameplay, Caitlyn is a marksman with exceptional range. She can outdistance almost every other champion in the game, pelting enemies with bullets from safety. Her traps control areas, and her ultimate is a targeted shot that can execute low-health enemies from across the map. She's been a stable pick in professional play for years due to her reliable range and scaling. Echo, the boy who shattered time. Echo is a genius from Zaun who invented time manipulation technology. Think about that. A teenage boy from the Undercity, with no formal education and limited resources, figured out how to break time. He built a device called the Zero Drive that lets him rewind a few seconds, giving him multiple attempts at any action. Echo uses this power to protect his neighborhood in Zaun. He leads a group of kids called the Firelights, fighting against the chem barons who flood Zaun with dangerous drugs and exploit the poor. He's a folk hero in the Undercity, spray-painting murals and pulling off impossible heists against those who hurt his people. But time manipulation comes with a cost. Echo has rewound the same moments over and over, trying to save people or stop disasters. Sometimes he succeeds. Sometimes, no matter how many times he rewinds, he can't change the outcome. That knowledge, that some things are inevitable, weighs on him. Echo's relationship with Jinx is particularly tragic. They were friends as children, before Powder became Jinx. In some alternate timeline, they might have been more than friends, but in this timeline they're on opposite sides. Echo has tried to reach her, to bring back Powder, but Jinx is too far gone. He carries grief for the friend he lost and anger at the monster she became. The in-game representation of Echo is one of League's most unique designs. His ultimate rewinds him to where he was 4 seconds ago, healing him and damaging enemies in the area. It's literally time travel, requiring players to think ahead and plan where they'll need to be. His other abilities involve time-delayed effects, bombs that explode after a pause, and a passive that activates after hitting an enemy 3 times. Playing Echo well feels like outsmarting time itself. Jace, the Defender of Tomorrow. Jace represents everything Piltover stands for. He's a brilliant inventor, a charismatic leader, and a defender of progress. He's most famous for inventing Hextech, the technology that combines magic and technology to create powerful tools. Hextech was revolutionary. Before Jace, magic was something only certain people could use. Mages were born with power, everyone else was powerless. Hextech democratized magic, making it accessible to anyone through technology. Piltover's ascension to prominence is largely due to Hextech innovations. But Jace's path to success wasn't smooth. His early experiments were dangerous, even causing an explosion that should have ended his career. He was saved by a mage who was passing through Piltover, someone who recognized the potential in Jace's work. This encounter taught Jace that magic didn't have to be feared. It could be understood and utilized safely. Jace eventually became a councillor in Piltover's government, using his position to promote scientific advancement and protect the city from threats. He's partnered with Victor, another inventor, though their philosophies have increasingly diverged over time. Jace believes in measured progress, in innovation that serves humanity. Victor has a more extreme vision. In the game, Jace is a transforming champion who switches between a hammer and a cannon. His hammer form provides melee combat and burst damage. His cannon form gives him range and poke damage. The ability to swap between forms mid-combat makes Jace incredibly versatile, able to adapt to any situation. Victor, the Machine Herald. Victor came from Zaun, born with a frail body in a harsh environment. He survived through brilliance, teaching himself engineering and chemistry. His inventions caught the attention of Piltover's academy, and he was given a rare opportunity, a chance to study in the upper city. Victor worked alongside Jace developing Hextech. But Victor's interest wasn't in commercial applications or military uses. He wanted to use Hextech to improve human bodies, to free people from the limitations of flesh. In Zaun, he'd seen people suffering from disease, injury, and genetic conditions. He believed technology could eliminate suffering. Victor began augmenting himself. He replaced his damaged leg with a mechanical one. He enhanced his hand with tools and devices. Each augmentation made him more capable, but also less human. Eventually, Victor concluded that humanity itself was the problem. Emotion caused conflict. Flesh caused pain. The solution was to transcend humanity entirely. Now Victor offers the glorious evolution to anyone who seeks it. He performs augmentations in Zaun, replacing body parts with machinery, sometimes removing emotions and free will in the process. From his perspective, he's saving people from suffering. From others' perspectives, he's creating an army of mind-controlled cyborgs. The tragic element is that Victor genuinely believes he's helping. He's not a villain who knows he's evil. He sees himself as the only one willing to do what's necessary to end suffering. The fact that his solution involves removing humanity makes him one of League's most philosophically interesting characters. Victor's gameplay involves area control through his abilities. He places devices on the battlefield that damage and control enemies. His ultimate summons a chaos storm that follows enemy champions, constantly damaging them. He scales incredibly well, becoming a late-game monster who can zone entire teams with his technology. Heimerdinger. The revered inventor, Heimerdinger is a Yordle, a small magical creature from Bandle City. Yordles live much longer than humans, and Heimerdinger has been alive for centuries. He's witnessed empires rise and fall, technologies be invented and forgotten. This long view makes him cautious about rapid progress. Heimerdinger was instrumental in Piltover's founding and has served on its council for generations. He advocates for careful, tested progress. He's seen what happens when dangerous technology is released too quickly. Disasters, wars, extinction-level events. So he insists on safety protocols and extensive testing. This puts him at odds with younger inventors like Jace and Victor, who see his caution as obstruction. They want to push boundaries and take risks. Heimerdinger wants to prevent catastrophes. Both perspectives have merit, creating a tension in Piltover's scientific community. Despite his caution, Heimerdinger is a brilliant inventor himself. His laboratory is filled with devices and experiments accumulated over centuries. He's contributed countless innovations to Piltover, always balancing potential benefits against possible dangers. In the game, Heimerdinger fights by deploying turrets. He places small automated guns that attack nearby enemies. His playstyle is about controlling space. Anywhere his turrets are set up becomes dangerous territory for opponents. He can unleash a massive upgrade to make one turret temporarily massive and powerful. Playing Heimerdinger is about preparation and area control. Teemo, the Swift Scout. Let's talk about League's most infamous champion, Teemo. He's a Yordle like Heimerdinger, but from a very different background. Teemo is a scout for Bandle City, serving in a special forces unit that protects Yordle territory. Teemo doesn't look threatening. He's a small, cute creature with a big smile and a scout's outfit. But Teemo is a stone-cold killer. His specialty is stealth and poisoned darts. He can become invisible, place mushroom traps that explode with toxic spores, and take down enemies much larger than himself. The interesting thing about Teemo is the dissonance between his appearance and his role. He's adorable, but he's also a soldier who's killed countless enemies in the line of duty. There are hints in his lore that this duality weighs on him, that maintaining his cheerful demeanour while doing dark work has psychological costs. The League community has a love-hate relationship with Teemo. His mushroom traps are invisible to enemies without detection items, meaning walking through areas Teemo has trapped is a minefield. Stepping on a mushroom deals heavy damage and reveals your position. Playing against Teemo is frustrating because you constantly have to worry about invisible traps. But there's also an affection for Teemo. He's been in the game since the beginning. He represents a simpler time in League's history. And despite being annoying to play against, there's something satisfying about perfectly placing mushrooms and watching enemies walk into them. Teemo has become a mascot of sorts, representing both League's cute side and its sadistic gameplay moments. The void, the space between now. We need to talk about something darker. The void isn't a place in Runeterra, it's the absence of place, the emptiness between realities. Before Runeterra existed, before anything existed, there was the void. When creation began, when the universe came into being, it pushed back the void. But the void wants to return, or rather, the creatures from the Voidborn, want to unmake creation and return everything to emptiness. They hunger for existence itself, consuming all matter and energy they encounter. Voidborn enter Runeterra through rifts, tears in reality. These rifts appear in places where reality is weak or damaged. Icathia, an ancient nation, deliberately opened a void rift as a weapon during a mere war. The resulting catastrophe destroyed Icathia entirely, turning it into a wasteland where reality itself is corrupted. The Voidborn come in many forms. Some are small, insect-like creatures, others are massive beasts that can level cities. All of them share a hunger to consume and unmake. They don't think like humans or even like animals. They're alien in the truest sense, operating on logic that makes no sense to mortal minds. Vel'Koz, the Eye of the Void. Vel'Koz is a Voidborn unlike the others. While most Voidborn simply consume and destroy, Vel'Koz seeks to understand. He's an observer, sent by the Void to study Runeterra and determine the most efficient way to unmake it. Vel'Koz disassembles things to learn how they work. He captures creatures, people, animals, anything that exists, and breaks them down into component parts. He analyzes their memories, their biology, their essence. This process is excruciating for the victim and fatal, but Vel'Koz conducts it with scientific detachment. The knowledge Vel'Koz gathers is sent back to the Void. Every discovery he makes, every weakness he finds in reality, contributes to the Void's understanding of how to unmake existence more efficiently. He's not cruel. Cruelty requires emotion. He's simply thorough. In the game, Vel'Koz is a mage who fires laser beams and geometric attacks. His abilities deconstruct enemies, fitting his lore perfectly. His ultimate channels a massive laser that sweeps across the battlefield, dealing true damage that ignores resistances, pure unmaking power. He's popular among players who enjoy high-damage mages with good range. Cho'Gath, the Terror of the Void. Cho'Gath represents the Void's endless hunger in its purest form. He exists to consume, nothing more, nothing less. With every creature he eats, Cho'Gath grows larger. There's theoretically no limit to his size. If he could consume enough, he could become planet-sized. Cho'Gath doesn't speak in words that mortals can understand. His voice is described as reality-rending, a sound that causes pain and madness in those who hear it. He's ancient even by Voidborn standards, one of the first to enter Runeterra through the rifts. Every time Cho'Gath appears, entire regions must be evacuated, armies mobilize, heroes gather, because if Cho'Gath isn't stopped, he'll eat everything in his path. Soldiers, civilians, buildings, nothing satisfies his hunger. He's a natural disaster given form and malice. His in-game mechanics reflect this perfectly. Cho'Gath's ultimate is called Feast. and it deals massive true damage to a target. If Feast kills an enemy, Cho'Gath permanently grows larger and gains more health. There's no cap. In long games, Cho'Gath can become so large he fills an entire lane, a screen-filling monstrosity that can kill squishier champions in one bite. Kai'Sa, daughter of the Void. Most people who encounter the Void don't survive. Kai'Sa is an exception. As a child, she fell into a Void rift. Everyone assumed she was dead. No one survives the Void, but Kai'Sa did. She survived because a Voidborn parasite bonded with her. The symbiote covered parts of her body, giving her weapons and armor made of living Void matter. Together, they fought off other Voidborn. For years, Kai'Sa lived in the Void, hunting and being hunted, adapted to survival in an alien dimension. When she finally found her way back to Runeterra, she'd been gone so long that no one recognized her. She'd become part Void herself, her body transformed by the symbiote. People feared her, believing she was a Voidborn. She's caught between worlds, too human for the Void, too Void-touched for humanity. Kai'Sa hunts Voidborn now, diving into rifts to kill them before they can enter Runeterra. She's trying to prove that being touched by the Void doesn't make you a monster, that you can retain your humanity even when fused with alien matter. But every time she uses her Void-granted powers, she worries she's becoming less human. Her father is Kassadin, another champion. He entered the Void searching for his lost daughter, believing she was dead but unable to accept it. He found ways to traverse the Void, becoming something between human and Voidborn himself. They've crossed paths but haven't had a full reunion yet. Both too changed, both carrying too much trauma from their time in the Void. Kai'Sa's gameplay makes her a mobile marksman. Her suit fires plasma projectiles and she can dive into fights with Void-powered speed. Her abilities evolve as she builds items, adapting to how the player wants to play her. She's incredibly popular, partly because of her compelling lore and partly because of her fun, fast-paced gameplay. Shurima, the Fallen Empire. Shurima was once the greatest empire Runeterra had ever seen. Its cities spanned a vast desert, and its people mastered magic beyond what most nations could imagine. The emperors of Shurima were seen as gods, chosen by the sun itself to rule. At the height of its power, Shuriman culture and influence spread across much of the continent. Then it all collapsed in a single day. The capital city was destroyed, buried under sand. The empire fragmented into scattered tribes and city-states. For thousands of years, Shurima's ruins lay beneath the desert, a reminder of fallen glory. Until recently, when the city rose again, pulled from the sand by an undead emperor who refused to stay dead. Azir, the Emperor of the Sands. Azir was Shurima's last emperor before the fall. He was a good ruler by the standards of his time, fair, just, working to improve his empire. He was also arrogant, believing himself chosen by the gods, and therefore above question. This arrogance would be his downfall. On the day of Azir's ascension ceremony, a ritual that would transform him into a godlike being, he was betrayed. Xerath, his closest friend and advisor, had been secretly learning forbidden magic. Xerath hijacked the ascension ritual, stealing the power meant for Azir. The resulting explosion of magical energy destroyed the capital and killed everyone present, including Azir. But death wasn't the end. Thousands of years later, when conditions were right, Azir's will pulled him back from death. He returned as a being of sand and magic, an undead emperor determined to rebuild his fallen empire. He raised the capital from the desert, reconstructing buildings and monuments through sheer magical power. Now Azir seeks to reunite Shurima under his rule. But the world has moved on. The scattered tribes have their own leaders and ways of life. They don't necessarily want a god-emperor ruling them again. Azir struggles to understand that his empire can't simply be restored, that thousands of years of history can't be erased. In the game, Azir is one of the most mechanically complex champions. He controls sand soldiers, summonable units that attack on his command. His ultimate creates a wall of soldiers that pushes away enemies, capable of splitting teamfights or making incredible defensive plays. Professional players who master Azir can dominate games, but he requires extensive practice to play effectively. Xerath, the Magus Ascendant. Xerath was born a slave in ancient Shurima. He was brilliant, taught himself magic through observation and stolen books. Azir, then a prince, recognized Xerath's genius and freed him, making him an advisor. They became genuine friends, as close as brothers. But Xerath could never forget that he'd been a slave. No matter how high he rose, no matter how much power he gained as Azir's advisor, he remained a former slave in a society built on slavery. When he learned about the ascension ritual that would make Azir immortal and godlike, something in Xerath broke. He decided that if anyone deserved godhood, it was him. He'd pulled himself from nothing through talent and determination. Azir was simply born into power. So Xerath made his plans, learned the forbidden magic necessary to steal ascension, and waited for his moment. The betrayal succeeded, but not perfectly. Xerath gained immense power, becoming a being of pure magical energy. But the ritual's disruption also destroyed his physical form. He became trapped in a sarcophagus, a prison designed to contain him. For thousands of years, Xerath remained conscious but imprisoned, his power locked away. Recently Xerath escaped. Now he's a being of arcane energy, barely contained in a humanoid shape. He wields magic on a scale that few can match, capable of obliterating armies. But he's also alone, a relic from an ancient time with no true allies or purpose beyond accumulating more power. The tragedy is that Xerath and Azir were genuinely friends once. If Azir had planned to abolish slavery, if he'd communicated that to Xerath, the betrayal might never have happened. But Azir kept his plans secret, and Xerath's bitterness and ambition drove him to destroy everything. Now they're enemies, two undead beings from an ancient empire locked in. Conflict. Xerath in-game is an artillery mage with incredible range. All his abilities are skill shots, and his ultimate lets him fire multiple long-range blasts across the map. Positioning is everything with Xerath. Stay at maximum range and rain destruction on enemies who can't reach you. Nexus and Renekton, brothers divided before Shurima fell, before Azir and Xerath's conflict, there were two brothers. Noxus was a scholar and strategist, brilliant but physically weak. Renekton was a warrior, strong and brave but not particularly intellectual. They balanced each other perfectly, serving Shurima together. When they underwent the ascension ritual, they were transformed into beings that reflected their nature. Noxus became a jackal-headed god of knowledge and death. Renekton became a crocodile-headed god of war and fury. Together, they protected Shurima for centuries. When Xerath was finally imprisoned after his betrayal, someone had to guard him. Renekton volunteered, knowing it meant being sealed away for potentially forever. Nexus begged his brother not to do it, but Renekton insisted. Someone had to make sure Xerath never escaped. So Renekton was sealed in the tomb with Xerath standing eternal vigil. Thousands of years passed. Noxus wandered Runeterra, grieving his brother, collecting knowledge. Renekton remained in the tomb. And Xerath, twisted and bitter, whispered to him. For centuries Xerath poisoned Renekton's mind, telling him that Noxus had betrayed him, that Noxus had sealed him away deliberately. By the time they were both freed, Renekton had gone mad. He believed Xerath's lies. When he saw Nexus again, he attacked, trying to kill the brother he'd once loved. Nexus doesn't want to fight Renekton. He just wants his brother back. But Renekton is too far gone, consumed by rage and madness. It's one of League's most tragic relationships. Two brothers who loved each other, separated by circumstance and destroyed by time. Noxus fights to protect people from his brother's rampage, while desperately seeking any way to restore Renekton's sanity. Nexus in-game is a scaling champion who becomes incredibly powerful late. His ability Siphoning Strike permanently grows stronger every time he kills an enemy with it. A well-farmed Nexus late game can kill opponents in just a few hits. Renekton is an early game bully who dominates opponents with his fury-based abilities and massive sustain. Talia, the Stoneweaver. Not everyone in Shurima is thousands of years old. Talia is a young girl from a Shuriman nomad tribe who discovered she could control rock and earth. Her powers manifested suddenly and violently, causing an accident that hurt people in her tribe. Terrified of what she might do, Talia ran away. She travelled across Runeterra, eventually reaching Ionia, where she sought training from someone who could teach her control. She studied with master mages, learning to shape stone with precision rather than raw power. But when she heard that, Shurima's capital had risen from the sand. Talia knew she had to return. Her people were in danger from the conflicts brewing in Shurima's resurgence. So she journeyed home, now trained and ready to protect her tribe with the power she once feared. Talia's story is about growing up, about learning to control aspects of yourself that seem dangerous or overwhelming. She represents a new generation of Shurimans who aren't connected to the ancient empire's glory or tragedy. She's just trying to protect her family and survive in a desert that's becoming increasingly dangerous. Her gameplay involves throwing rocks and surfing on a stone wave. Her ultimate creates a massive wall that spans across the map, blocking paths and dividing battlefields. She has a loyal following among players who appreciate her character development and unique movement abilities. Bilgewater, the City of Pirates. Let's talk about Bilgewater, one of Runeterra's most lawless regions. It's a port city built on a group of islands, home to pirates, smugglers, merchants and criminals of every type. There's no real government in Bilgewater. Power belongs to whoever can take it and hold it. The city is built on the corpse of a dead sea monster. The original settlers found a massive creature's carcass washed up on the islands and built their docks and buildings around and inside it. Over centuries, the city grew, layer upon layer, until the original bones were buried deep under construction. Bilgewater is a place where you can buy anything if you have the coin. Forbidden artifacts, stolen goods, information, assassins, everything has a price. The only real rule is don't disrespect the sea. Bilgewater's people are superstitious about the ocean, believing it's alive and vengeful. Sailors leave offerings and follow traditions to avoid the sea's wrath. Gangplank and Misfortune Bilgewater's recent history is defined by conflict between two powerful figures. Gangplank was the city's most feared pirate captain, ruling through intimidation and violence. His ship, the Dead Pool, was legendary, and his reputation kept other pirates in line through fear. Then Misfortune, a bounty hunter with her own grudge against Gangplank, organised a coup. She rallied other captains, promised them a share of power, and launched an attack during a festival when Gangplank's guard was down. The coup succeeded. Gangplank's ship was destroyed, and he was believed dead. Misfortune became Bilgewater's de facto leader, but ruling is harder than she anticipated. The captains who helped her now expect rewards and influence. Rival gangs fight in the streets, and worst of all, Gangplank survived. He's gathering loyal followers and planning his revenge. The conflict between them is personal. Misfortune's parents were killed by Gangplank years ago when she was a child. She's been planning revenge ever since, building her reputation and skills for the sole purpose of destroying him. But killing Gangplank might have been easier than dealing with the power vacuum his fall created. Gangplank in-game is a melee fighter who uses pistols and barrels. He places explosive barrels around the map that can be chained together for massive area damage. His ultimate calls in a cannon barrage that rains down on a targeted area. Misfortune is a marksman with incredible area damage through her ultimate bullet time, which sprays bullets in a cone for massive teamfight damage. Pike, the Blood Harbour Ripper. Bilgewater has its share of ghost stories, and Pike is one that turned out to be real. He was a harpooner on a whaling ship, the crew member who risked his life diving into the water to secure kills. During one hunt, Pike was left to drown by his captain and crew. They cut his lifeline and sailed away, sacrificing him to save themselves. Pike drowned in the depths, but something down there wouldn't let him die. The ocean's darkness took him, transformed him, and sent him back. Now Pike returns to Bilgewater at night, hunting down anyone whose name appears on his list. That list contains everyone who's ever betrayed their crew, everyone who's left someone to die for profit. Pike doesn't remember his exact past. The drowning damaged his mind. Sometimes he writes names on his list without knowing why, but he's convinced everyone he kills deserves it, that they betrayed someone. In his mind, he's delivering justice. To everyone else, he's a terrifying serial killer who appears from the water and drags people to their deaths. His appearance reflects his undead nature. He's waterlogged and rotting, wrapped in his old diving suit. His weapon is a massive dagger-harpoon combination that he uses to impale enemies. When he kills someone, ghost sharks appear to feast on the corpse, a manifestation of his connection to the ocean's dark side. Pike is a support assassin, a unique role combination. He can turn invisible, pull enemies with his harpoon, and stun multiple enemies with his dash. His ultimate is an execution. If it kills an enemy, he can cast it again immediately, potentially chaining multiple kills. When Pike scores an execution kill, His supporting ally also gets gold, making him the only champion who can generate extra gold for teammates. Nautilus, the Titan of the Depths. Before Pike, there was another man who was betrayed by his crew and drowned in the depths. Nautilus was a salvage diver, someone who recovered valuable cargo from shipwrecks. He wore a massive diving suit that allowed him to walk along the ocean floor searching for treasure in the darkness. During one dive, his crew spotted something more valuable than what Nautilus was retrieving. They cut his line and left him to die, just like Pike's crew would do years later. Nautilus fell deeper than he'd ever gone, into trenches where sunlight never reaches. Down there, something ancient noticed him. Nautilus made a bargain. He doesn't remember the exact terms anymore, but he survived. His diving suit fused with his body, becoming part of him. He grew massive, standing over 12 feet tall, his armor and flesh now one. He walks the ocean floor still, no longer needing to breathe, driven by a compulsion he doesn't fully understand. Nautilus drags ships down. When he encounters vessels on the ocean surface, he pulls them into the depths, drowning everyone aboard. He's compelled to collect a tithe for whatever entity saved him. Sometimes he targets ships of people who've committed betrayals, delivering justice like Pike. Other times the ships seem random, innocent people dying for no clear reason. The tragedy is that Nautilus might not want to do this. There are hints he's a prisoner in his own body, forced to serve an ancient oceanic entity. Every ship he drags down, every person he drowns, adds to his guilt. But he can't stop. He's bound by the bargain he made in the depths. In the game, Nautilus is a tank support with incredible crowd control. Every one of his abilities can lock down enemies. His passive roots enemies he attacks. His hook pulls him to walls or enemies to him. His ultimate targets a champion and knocks up everyone between Nautilus and his target. He's the definition of a lockdown champion. Ilaoi, the Kraken priestess. Not everyone in Bilgewater fears the ocean. Ilaoi worships it. She's a priestess of Nagakaburos, a god that Bilgewater's people call the Bearded Lady or the Great Kraken. Nagakaburos is a god of motion, change and testing. Ilaoi serves as her prophet, testing people to see if they're worthy. Ilaoi's tests are brutal. She can pull people's spirits out of their bodies and fight the spirit. If you're weak, if you fail the test, you're left a broken husk. If you're strong, you prove yourself worthy and Nagakaburos blesses you. Ilaoi doesn't apologize for this harshness. The ocean is harsh, life is harsh. Nagakaburos only values those who can withstand challenges. Ilaoi had a relationship with Gangplank before Misfortune's coup. She tested him constantly, pushing him to prove his strength. When Gangplank survived the coup despite terrible injuries, Ilaoi saw it as him passing a test. Their relationship is complicated. She cares for him, but won't let that stop her from testing him again if necessary. Her philosophy is about motion over stagnation. She tells people to pursue their passions, to fight for what they want, to keep moving forward. Staying still, accepting your fate, giving up. These are the only sins in Nagakaburos' eyes. Even if you fail, even if you die, it's better than not trying. In gameplay, Ilaoi is a juggernaut who summons tentacles to slam enemies. Her ultimate creates multiple tentacles around her that all strike simultaneously, turning her into a one-woman army in team fights. The key is landing her spirit-pulling ability, which creates a ghost that, when damaged, also damages the real champion. Playing against Ilaoi means respecting her zone control or getting destroyed. Fizz, the tidal trickster. Not everything in Bilgewater is dark and serious. Fizz is a yordle from an underwater city who causes mischief on the surface. His people, the Moray, live deep below Bilgewater, in structures built into underwater caves and trenches. They're amphibious, able to breathe water and air and generally prefer to stay hidden from surface dwellers. Fizz is curious about the surface world. He sneaks up to Bilgewater regularly, exploring the docks and getting into trouble. He's playful and doesn't mean harm, but his pranks sometimes go too far. He'll steal food from vendors, release fish from markets, and generally cause chaos before diving back into the water. There's more to Fizz than just pranks, though. He's defended Bilgewater from sea monsters on multiple occasions. When something from the deep threatens the city, Fizz fights it, often without anyone knowing he helped. He sees himself as a bridge between the surface and the depths, protecting both from threats the other doesn't understand. His relationship with Bilgewater is complicated. The people see him as a nuisance, chasing him off when he appears. But there are stories of mysterious helps, nets mysteriously filled with fish when supplies were low, sea monsters found dead that were about to attack. Some suspect Fizz is responsible, others think he's just a pest. Fizz in-game is a mobile assassin who can hop on his trident to dodge abilities. His playful nature translates into a slippery playstyle, where he dashes around, avoiding damage while dealing his own. His ultimate summons a shark that knocks up and devours enemies. He's incredibly frustrating to play against because he can dodge so many abilities with his pole vault. Mount Targon, the Celestial Peak. Moving away from the ocean, let's talk about Mount Targon, the tallest mountain in Runeterra. Its peak reaches above the clouds and climbing it is considered impossible. The path is treacherous, filled with deadly trials. Most who attempt the climb die. Those few who reach the summit are forever changed. At Targon's peak, the barrier between the mortal world and the celestial realm is thin. Celestial beings, godlike entities that exist beyond normal reality, watch Runeterra from above. Sometimes they choose mortals to be their hosts, merging with them to create aspects. These aspects wield incredible power, but lose part of their humanity in the process. The Rakor people live at Targon's base. They're warriors who worship the sun and the aspects. Their entire culture revolves around strength and the belief that only the worthy can climb the mountain. They send their greatest warriors up the slopes, knowing most will never return. Leona and Diana, the sun and moon. Leona and Diana were both Rakor, raised in the same temple, trained as warriors together. They were friends despite their differences. Leona embodied everything the Rakor valued, strong, confident, devoted to the sun. Diana was always questioning, interested in forbidden knowledge about the moon. The Rakor had erased moon worship from their culture. In the past, the moon had been revered alongside the sun, but moon worship was banned centuries ago. Diana discovered old texts about the moon's aspect and became obsessed. She believed the Rakor were wrong to reject the moon. When Diana spoke out, challenging the Solari elders, she was branded a heretic. They tried to execute her, but as she faced death, something awakened. The moon chose Diana as its aspect, granting her incredible power. In the chaos that followed, Diana killed the elders who'd tried to execute her. Leona climbed Targon's peak seeking power to stop Diana, believing her friend had been corrupted. The sun chose Leona as its aspect. Now they're both aspect hosts, wielding divine power and locked in conflict. Leona believes she must stop Diana to protect the Rakor. Diana believes she must force the Rakor to accept the moon's truth. The tragedy is they were friends once. They cared for each other deeply. But now they're weapons for celestial beings, representing sun and moon, locked in an eternal cycle of conflict that mirrors their celestial patrons. There are moments where their humanity shows through, where they almost reach each other, but then the aspect's power surges and they fight again. Leona is a tank support who embodies the sun's aggression. She can dash to enemies, stunning them, then lock them down with more crowd control. Her abilities apply a debuff that causes allies damage to deal bonus damage, making her excellent for coordinated teams. Diana is an assassin who dives into enemies with lunar-powered attacks. Her abilities curve and arc like the phases of the moon, and she can pull multiple enemies to her before bursting them down. Pantheon, the unbreakable spear. Atreus was a Rakor warrior, skilled but not exceptional. His friend Pylus was the talented one, destined to climb Targon and become an aspect. When they climbed together, Pylus died on the slopes. Atreus, grief-stricken, continued climbing alone. He had to drag himself up the final stretches, wounded and exhausted. At the summit, the aspect of war chose Atreus as its host. But the aspect didn't care about Atreus's personality or dreams. It simply overwrote him, using his body as a vessel. The aspect of war, calling itself Pantheon, returned to Targon wielding godly power. For years, the aspect controlled Atreus's body, fighting wars across Runeterra. Atreus was aware, trapped inside his own mind, watching the aspect use his body to kill. Then something unprecedented happened. During a battle with a void-empowered enemy, the aspect of war was killed. The celestial entity died, destroyed completely. Atreus should have died too, but he didn't. His mortal will was strong enough to survive without the aspect. He reclaimed his body and his name, but he kept the aspect's powers. Now he calls himself Pantheon. But he's just a man wielding godly weapons. He's proof that mortals can stand against gods. Pantheon fights aspects now. He believes celestial beings abuse mortals, using them as tools. He's seen what the aspects did to Leona and Diana, turning friends into enemies. He's experienced being possessed and used. So he stands against them, just a mortal with a spear, refusing to bow to gods. His gameplay reflects this determination. Pantheon is a fighter who leaps across the map with his ultimate, crashing down like a meteor. His abilities involve stabbing enemies with his spear and blocking attacks with his shield. He's relatively simple but effective, representing a straightforward warrior's approach to combat. Aurelion Sol, the Star Forger. Then there's Aurelion Sol, who makes all other champions seem small. He's a cosmic dragon who creates stars. Not metaphorically, he literally forges stars, building galaxies for his own amusement. He's older than Runeterra itself, a being from beyond reality who views mortals the way we might view bacteria. Aurelion Sol was tricked by the aspects of Targon. They lured him close to Runeterra, then bound him with a crown that forces him to obey. For thousands of years, Aurelion Sol has been enslaved, forced to fight for Targon, to destroy their enemies, to serve beings he considers infinitely beneath him. His rage is incomprehensible. Imagine being a god-level being, capable of creating stars, reduced to a servant. Every moment bound is torture. Every command he's forced to obey fuels his hatred. When he's finally free, and he believes freedom is inevitable, Aurelion Sol plans to destroy Runeterra entirely, erasing the planet that dared enslave him, but he's also vain and proud. Despite his hatred, Aurelion Sol can't help but admire beautiful things or show off his power. He considers himself the pinnacle of existence, and he expects recognition. He's dismissive of mortals but occasionally amused by their audacity. Playing Aurelion Sol requires a unique mindset. He doesn't attack directly. Instead, he has stars orbiting him constantly that damage enemies who touch them. His gameplay is about positioning and zone control, moving so your orbiting stars hit enemies while they can't reach you. His ultimate pushes enemies away, maintaining distance. He's one of the least played champions because his mechanics are so different from everyone else. Zoe, the aspect of Twilight. Zoe is the aspect of Twilight, representing change and mischief. But unlike Leona or Diana, who became aspects as adults, Zoe was chosen as a child. She's been the aspect for so long that her original personality has almost completely merged with the celestial entity. Zoe appears as a young girl because that's how old she was when chosen. But she's actually ancient, possibly thousands of years old. Time works differently for aspects. She can skip through time, appearing in different eras, never aging. To her, everything is a game. She plays pranks on mortals and gods alike, not understanding or caring about consequences. The Twilight aspect's role is to herald change. When Zoe appears, it means something major is about to happen. She doesn't cause these changes, she just shows up before they occur, like a cosmic alarm. Sometimes she helps the change happen, sometimes she tries to stop it, often she just watches and laughs. There's something unsettling about Zoe. She has a child's appearance and mannerisms, but wields reality-altering power. She's been the aspect so long that she doesn't think like a human anymore. She'll make friends with mortals, play with them, then forget about them for centuries and be confused when she returns to find them long dead. Zoe's gameplay matches her chaotic nature. She can redirect enemies' summoner spells, create portals to dash around, and fire sleepy bubbles that make enemies drowsy before dealing massive damage. Her abilities feel random and unpredictable, requiring quick thinking to use effectively. She can pick up summoner spell shards dropped by enemies and use them herself, leading to bizarre situations where she has multiple flash abilities or steals teleports. Tarek, the Shield of Valoran. Tarek was a soldier in Demacia's military who failed his duty. He was guarding a temple when it came under attack. Tarek chose to chase enemy raiders who'd stolen a sacred chalice, rather than defend the temple. The temple was destroyed in his absence and lives were lost. Demacia exiled him to climb Mount Targon, expecting him to die on the slopes as punishment. But Tarek survived the climb and reached the summit. There, the aspect of the Protector chose him. Unlike the aspect of war that erased Atreus, or the Twilight aspect that consumed Zoe, the Protector aspect merged with Tarek cooperatively. Now, Tarek protects beauty wherever he finds it. Not just physical beauty, though he appreciates that too. He protects moments of genuine connection, acts of kindness, anything that represents life at its best. He's essentially a paladin devoted to preserving what's good in the world. Tarek is also famously fabulous. He's comfortable in his appearance, confident in his power, and unfazed by others' opinions. He understands that strength comes in many forms, and that there's power in gentleness as much as aggression. In the game, Tarek is a support tank who shields and heals allies. His ultimate makes his entire team invulnerable for a few seconds, one of the most powerful defensive abilities in League. His abilities can target an ally, linking to them so his powers affect both himself and his chosen partner. He's about cooperation and protection, supporting his team through defense rather than offense. Soraka, the Star Child. Soraka was once a celestial being herself, immortal and powerful. She lived among the stars, watching over Runeterra from above, but she made a choice that changed everything. She came down to help mortals. There was a war happening that threatened to devastate an entire region. Soraka saw the suffering and couldn't remain detached. She descended to Runeterra and used her power to heal the wounded and broker peace, but in doing so she violated celestial laws. Celestials are meant to observe, not interfere so directly. As punishment, Soraka was stripped of her immortality and bound to a mortal form. She became mortal, trapped in Runeterra, no longer able to return to the celestial realm. But she didn't regret her choice. If becoming mortal was the price for saving lives, she'd pay it again. Now Soraka wanders Runeterra as a healer. She finds battlefields and disaster sites, using what remains of her power to heal the wounded. She's driven by compassion, unable to ignore suffering. Every person she saves justifies her sacrifice, but healing others costs Soraka part of her own life force. Every spell she casts damages herself. She's literally giving pieces of her life to save others. It's a mechanic built into her gameplay. To heal allies, Soraka must harm herself. She can restore her health by hitting enemies with her attacks, but it's a constant balance of self-sacrifice. Soraka is one of the best pure healers in League. Her abilities restore massive amounts of health, remove crowd control, and can even grant health regeneration. A good Soraka player keeps their team alive through impossible situations. But playing her requires careful health management since every heal costs part of your own life bar. Aphelios, the weapon of the faithful. Aphelios is mute, not naturally. He drank a poison that destroyed his voice as part of a ritual. He's part of the Lunari, Diana's moon-worshipping followers, and he serves as a weapon for his faith. His sister Elune is a seer, able to channel the moon's power. She's trapped in a spirit realm but can communicate with Aphelios. Elune sends Aphelios magical weapons through their connection. He wields 5 different moon-powered weapons, each with unique properties. A rifle that marks enemies for follow-up damage, a scythe that heals him, a flamethrower that damages multiple enemies, a gravity cannon that roots enemies, a chakram that returns to him after attacking. Aphelios fights in perfect silence, unable to speak, guided by his sister's voice that only he can hear. To observers, he's an eerie figure who fights with supernatural coordination, cycling through weapons in perfect rhythm. He trusts Elune completely, following her guidance even when he can't see the full picture. Their relationship is the core of his character. Brother and sister separated by different planes of existence, connected only through moon magic, working together to defend their faith. Aphelios sacrificed his voice for this power. Elune sacrificed her physical form. Together, they're formidable. Playing Aphelios is incredibly complex. He has 5 weapons that cycle in a set order. Each weapon has its own attack pattern and can be combined with other weapons for different abilities. Learning which weapon, combinations do what, when to cycle to specific weapons, and how to maximize damage requires extensive knowledge. He's one of the most mechanically demanding champions in the entire game. Ixtal, the Hidden Kingdom. There's a region of Runeterra that most people don't know exists. Ixtal is a jungle nation that's been isolated for thousands of years. When the Rune Wars threatened to destroy Runeterra, Ixtal's leaders decided to hide their entire nation. They used elemental magic to make their lands undetectable, removing Ixtal from maps and memory. For millennia, Ixtal has existed in isolation. They developed their own culture, their own magic system, completely separate from the rest of Runeterra. They use elemental magic called axiometer, manipulating earth, air, fire and water in ways other nations can't replicate. But recently, Ixtal's barriers have weakened. The outside world is starting to discover them again. This presents a dilemma. Should Ixtal remain hidden or rejoin the world? Some Ixtali believe they should share their knowledge and help prevent future catastrophes. Others believe the outside world is still too dangerous, that Ixtal should remain secret. Chiana, Empress of the Elements. Chiana is an Ixtali princess, youngest of many siblings. She's brilliant with elemental magic, possibly the most talented elementalist in Ixtal's history. But she's also arrogant, ambitious, and frustrated that her older siblings are ahead of her in succession for the throne. Chiana believes she deserves to rule Ixtal. She's more talented than her siblings, more intelligent, more powerful. The only thing they have is birthright, and she considers that an arbitrary measure. So she schemes, manipulating situations to make her siblings look incompetent while she appears heroic. She's not entirely wrong. Many of her siblings are mediocre leaders maintained by tradition, but Chiana's methods are ruthless. She's willing to endanger people to create situations where she can be the hero. She views others as tools to advance her agenda. Chiana's abilities reflect her elemental mastery. She wields a ring blade called an omlatl that she enchants with different elements. She can make it earth element to damage and stun, water element to root enemies, or brush element to become invisible. Her ultimate unleashes a shockwave that bounces off walls, potentially stunning an entire team. She's a mobile assassin who adapts to situations by swapping elements. Nico, the Curious Chameleon. Nico is a Vastayer from a tribe that lived deep in an uncharted jungle. Her people could shapeshift, taking the form of anyone they'd touched. They lived peacefully, isolated from the world's conflicts. Then disaster struck. Her entire tribe was killed in a catastrophe. Nico was away during the destruction, and when she returned, everyone she'd ever known was gone. Now Nico wanders Runeterra, the last of her kind, trying to understand the strange world beyond her jungle. She's curious and friendly, fascinated by the different people and cultures she encounters. But she's also deeply lonely, carrying the grief of being the sole survivor of her tribe. Nico's shape-shifting isn't just physical. When she takes someone's form, she gains glimpses of their emotions and thoughts. She feels what they feel, which gives her immense empathy. She can tell when someone is lying or hiding pain. This makes her an excellent judge of character, but also means she's constantly overwhelmed by others' emotions. She's looking for a new tribe, a new family. She makes friends easily but struggles with the fact that no one else is like her, that she'll never find another shapeshifter from her original people. There's a melancholy beneath her cheerful exterior. In the game, Nico is a mage who can disguise herself as allied champions. She can look exactly like her team's marksman, then surprise enemies when she reveals herself and unleashes powerful magic. Her ultimate makes her leap into the air and slam down, stunning all nearby enemies. Playing Nico well involves deception, making enemies think you're a squishy target, then punishing them when they engage. Zyra, Rise of the Thorns. Zyra isn't human, though she appears that way. She's a carnivorous plant given human form. In a region where magic and nature intertwine, a predatory plant species developed something resembling consciousness. One specimen in particular grew cunning enough to realize that having a humanoid form would let it hunt more effectively. Zyra constructed a human body from vines, thorns, and plant matter. She learned to move like a human, speak like a human, even think somewhat like a human, but underneath she's still a plant, still driven by the same instincts to grow, consume, and spread. She views humans and animals as resources. Some provide nutrients when their bodies decompose. Others can be used as pollinators or seed spreaders. She doesn't hate mortals. She simply doesn't value them any more than they value the plants they harvest. To Zyra, consuming a person is no different than a person eating fruit. This alien perspective makes Zyra unsettling. She can converse normally, even charm people with her appearance. But there's something slightly off about her movements, her speech patterns, her complete lack of empathy. She's imitating humanity well enough to pass, but she's not human and doesn't pretend to care about human concerns. Zyra's gameplay involves summoning plants to fight for her. She scatters seeds on the ground, then uses her other abilities to make them bloom into thorn spitters or vine lashers that attack enemies. Her ultimate causes all her plants to enrage, dealing massive damage in a large area. She's about map control and zone denial through her garden of deadly plants, Anivia, the Cryophoenix. Earlier we mentioned Anivia as one of the Freljord's ancient spirits. She's a phoenix made of ice, a paradox that embodies the Freljord's harsh beauty. Anivia has lived for thousands of years, dying and being reborn over and over in an endless cycle. Every time Anivia dies, she turns into an egg. If the egg survives for long enough, she hatches again, reborn with all her memories intact. This immortality gives her a unique perspective. She's watched civilizations rise and fall. She's seen the same conflicts repeat across generations. She knows that very little is actually new. It's all cycles repeating. Anivia is patient and wise. She doesn't panic or rush because she knows she has time. If something goes wrong in this life, she'll try again in the next. This makes her an excellent advisor and mediator, able to see the long-term consequences of actions. But this immortality also means she's watched everyone she's ever cared about die. Friends, allies, people she's protected, all of them grow old and pass while she continues. Anivia carries thousands of years of accumulated grief. She's learned not to get too attached because everyone leaves eventually. She protects the Freljord not out of duty, but out of love. This frozen land is her home, the one constant across all her lives. She guides travellers through blizzards, fights threats that endanger the tribes, and tries to prevent the worst conflicts between the three queens. Anivia in-game is a control mage who walls off areas and damages enemies in zones. Her passive is her egg form. When she dies, she turns into an egg that, if not destroyed quickly, hatches and brings Anivia back to life. Her wall can completely block paths, trapping enemies or protecting allies. Her ultimate creates a blizzard that grows stronger the longer enemies stand in it. She's excellent at controlling objectives and team fights through zone control. Volibear, the relentless storm. Volibear is Ornn's brother, the bear god of the Freljord. Where Ornn represents civilization and craft, Volibear represents savagery and the wild. He believes the Freljord has been corrupted by civilization, that building permanent settlements and creating complex societies weakens his people. Volibear wants the Freljord to return to the old ways. He wants his followers to be nomadic raiders who take what they need by force, who worship through battle and blood sacrifice. He sees the conflict between Ashe, Sejuani, and Lysandra as proof that civilization only breeds weakness and complicated politics. He's not entirely wrong. The old ways produced incredibly hardy people who could survive anything the Freljord threw at them. But they also meant constant warfare, short brutal lives and no progress beyond survival. Volibear doesn't care about progress. He values strength and the freedom that comes from having no attachments. His conflict with Ornn is philosophical as much as personal. They fought in the past, and their battle scarred the landscape, creating valleys and breaking mountains. Both genuinely believe their way is better for the Freljord. Neither can accept compromise because their visions are fundamentally incompatible. Volibear's followers are the most savage of Freljord's tribes. They wear bear pelts, file their teeth into fangs, and perform rituals that involve fighting without weapons. They believe that dying in battle grants Volibear's blessing. Weakness is the only sin. Compassion is weakness. Planning is weakness. Only immediate violent action matters. In gameplay, Volibear is a fighter who gains speed when running toward enemies and can stun them with his bite. His ultimate lets him leap massive distances and disables towers, allowing him to dive deep into enemy territory. He gets stronger when he's wounded, gaining attack speed at low health. Everything about his kit encourages aggressive, forward-only gameplay. Udyr, the Spirit Walker. Udyr is a human who learned to channel the spirits of the Freljord's animals. He can take on aspects of the bear, tiger, turtle, and phoenix, gaining their attributes. When he channels the bear, he gains incredible strength. The tiger grants him speed and ferocity. The turtle provides defense. The phoenix grants him magical power. But channeling these spirits comes at a cost. The more Udyr uses their power, the more he risks losing himself to their primal instincts. He has to constantly maintain his humanity, balancing the animal spirits with his own mind. It's a constant internal struggle. Udyr originally came to the Freljord seeking peace. He'd been a violent person, prone to rage and destructive behaviour. He thought the Freljord's harsh environment and spiritual traditions might teach him control. He found masters who taught him spirit walking, and he's been training ever since. But the world keeps pulling him back into conflict. His adopted son Lee Sin needs guidance. The Freljord's wars threaten innocence. Udyr can never fully retreat into meditation because his conscience won't let him ignore suffering. There's also the matter of Volibear. The bear spirit Udyr channels might be connected to the bear god himself. If that's true, then every time Udyr uses bear stance, he's channeling a fragment of Volibear's power. This creates a dangerous connection between a man seeking peace and a god of savage warfare. Udyr recently received a visual update that completely transformed his appearance. Now he looks like a proper spirit walker with tattoos, animal pelts, and an appearance that shows the burden he carries. His old model was notoriously outdated, looking more like a homeless man than a mystical warrior. His gameplay is unique. Udyr has no ultimate ability. Instead, he has 4 basic abilities that he can cycle between, each representing a different animal spirit. He maxes all 4 abilities equally, making him incredibly versatile. He can build tanky, damage-heavy, or a mix depending on what his team needs. Lee Sin, the blind monk Lee Sin, was a powerful summoner in Ionia before the war with Noxus. When the war began, he watched young students, children barely old enough to fight, being sent to battle. Desperate to help, Lee Sin used forbidden magic to summon a massive beast to defend Ionia. The summoning went wrong. The beast went berserk and killed dozens of people, including many of the students Lee Sin was trying to protect. Racked with guilt, Lee Sin set himself on fire as penance for his failure. Other monks pulled him from the flames, saving his life, but he was permanently blinded and badly scarred. Lee Sin joined a monastery, seeking redemption through discipline and training. He learned to fight without sight, using sound and touch to perceive his surroundings. He became one of the most skilled martial artists in Ionia, able to fight multiple opponents simultaneously despite his blindness. He also learned to forgive himself. The monks taught him that dwelling on past mistakes helps no one. What matters is how you move forward, what you do with the life you've been given. Lee Sin dedicated himself to protecting others, ensuring his second chance at life had meaning. Lee Sin travels Ionia now, helping villages that are threatened by bandits or monsters. He's a wandering protector, never staying long in one place, always moving to where he's needed next. He's found peace in this life, though he carries his scars as a reminder of the cost of recklessness. In the game, Lee Sin is one of the most iconic champions. He's a fighter with incredible mobility, able to dash around battlefields by targeting allies or enemies with his abilities. His ultimate kick can send enemies flying into their teammates, potentially knocking up an entire team. He's flashy and mechanically demanding, requiring quick reflexes and good decision-making. Professional players make highlight reels of Lee Sin plays. Karma, the Enlightened One. Karma is a title, not a name. It's passed down through generations in Ionia, given to the spiritual leader of a peaceful province. When someone becomes Karma, they gain access to all the memories and knowledge of every previous Karma. It's a form of immortality. Each Karma's consciousness contributes to the collective knowledge passed to the next. The current Karma is young, and she's facing an unprecedented crisis. Ionia was invaded, traumatized, changed. The old ways of peace and meditation don't seem sufficient anymore. Some Ionians want revenge against Noxus, others want to isolate and heal. Still others want to prepare for future invasions by becoming as militaristic as their enemies. Karma is caught between honouring the peaceful traditions of past Karmas and adapting to a changed world. She can feel the previous Karmas' memories advising caution, recommending diplomacy. But she's also watching her people suffer and knowing that sometimes peace isn't possible without the strength to defend it. She's made controversial decisions, using Karma's power in combat, organising defences, even killing when necessary. Some Ionians celebrate her for this pragmatism. Others believe she's betrayed Karma's legacy. She's struggling with the question, can you maintain spiritual enlightenment while engaging in violence? Is there a way to be both wise and willing to fight? Karma's gameplay reflects her dual nature. Her abilities can shield and heal allies or damage enemies. Her mantra mechanic lets her empower one of her basic abilities, making it stronger. She can choose whether to empower her damaging ability, her shield, or her root, depending on what the situation requires. She's about flexibility and choice. Shen, the Eye of Twilight. Shen is the leader of the Kinko Order, a group that maintains balance between the spirit realm and physical realm in Ionia. The Kinku believe that neither realm should dominate the other, that balance is essential for both worlds' survival. Shen was trained from childhood for this role. His father was the previous Eye of Twilight, and Shen was groomed to succeed him. He learned to set aside personal feelings, to make decisions based purely on maintaining balance rather than on emotion or morality. This philosophy was tested when his father was killed. The assassin was Zed, Shen's adopted brother. Zed had left the Kinku years earlier, believing their neutrality was weakness. He'd founded his own order based on forbidden shadow magic and ruthless efficiency. When Zed killed Shen's father, Shen faced an impossible choice. Personally, he wanted revenge. As the Eye of Twilight, he had to consider whether revenge served balance. If he killed Zed, would that make the world better or just perpetuate a cycle of violence? Shen chose to let Zed live. Not out of forgiveness, Shen hasn't forgiven Zed, but because hunting Zed would consume him, preventing him from fulfilling his duties. It's a cold, rational decision that leaves Shen empty. He's maintained balance at the cost of his own peace. Shen protects people across Ionia now, teleporting to those in danger. He saves lives without asking for thanks or acknowledgement. To be the Eye of Twilight means sacrificing personal desires for the greater good. Shen has accepted this burden, though it weighs heavily. His gameplay is about global protection. Shen can teleport to any ally on the map with his ultimate, shielding them when he arrives. He's a tank who dashes through enemies with his spirit blade, taunting them to force their focus on him instead of his allies. He's the ultimate bodyguard champion. Zed, the Master of Shadows. Zed was an orphan taken in by the Kinku Order. He trained alongside Shen under the tutelage of Shen's father. Zed was immensely talented, possibly more so than Shen, but he was also ambitious and frustrated by the Kinku's restrictions. The Kinku forbade the use of shadow magic, considering it too dangerous and unbalancing. But Zed saw shadow magic as a tool, neither good nor evil in itself. He believed the Kinku's refusal to use every available tool made them weak. When Noxus invaded Ionia, Zed watched the Kinku maintain their neutrality. They didn't help defend Ionia because taking sides would upset balance. Zed saw Ionians dying while the Kinku did nothing, and something in him broke. He decided the Kinku's philosophy was cowardice dressed up as wisdom. Zed sought out the shadow magic the Kinku had forbidden. He found it in a sealed temple and claimed its power. The shadows corrupted him, or perhaps revealed who he truly was. When he returned, he killed Shen's father, the man who'd raised them both, because he saw the old master as the embodiment of everything wrong with the Kinku. Now Zed leads the Order of Shadow, a group that uses forbidden techniques to defend Ionia. They're effective. Zed's assassins have killed countless Noxian officers and disrupted enemy operations. But they're also brutal, willing to sacrifice innocents if it achieves their goals. Zed isn't entirely wrong. The Kinku's neutrality did fail Ionia during the invasion, but his methods are morally questionable at best. He's become exactly what the Kinku feared, someone consumed by power, convinced their ends justify any means. Playing Zed is about shadows and deception. He can create shadow clones that mimic his abilities, making it hard for enemies to tell which is real. His ultimate marks an enemy, then detonates after a delay for massive damage based on how much damage Zed dealt during the mark. He's an assassin who rewards aggressive, precise play. Akali, the rogue assassin. Akali was raised in the Kinku Order alongside Shen. She was being trained as the Fist of Shadow, the Kinku's sole offensive member. While Shen maintained balance and Kennen gathered information, Akali would eliminate threats. But Akali became disillusioned with the Kinku's approach. She saw them as too passive, too concerned with balance to actually protect people. When she watched Shen let Zed live despite killing his father, Akali lost faith in the Kinku philosophy entirely. She left the Order and started operating independently. Akali still protects Ionia, but on her own terms. She hunts down criminals, warlords, and anyone who threatens innocent people. She doesn't worry about balance or larger implications. If someone is hurting people, she stops them. It's simpler and more direct than the Kinku's approach. Her departure hurt Shen, though he doesn't show it. He trained Akali, cared for her like a younger sister. Her rejection of the Kinku feels personal. But he also understands her perspective. Sometimes he envies her freedom to act on emotion rather than duty. Akali has also clashed with Zed's order. She respects their effectiveness but despises their willingness to sacrifice innocence. This puts her at odds with both the Kinku and the Order of Shadow. She's alone, following her own moral code in a world that's more complicated than she sometimes admits. Her gameplay is all about aggressive assassinations. Akali can throw kunai that mark enemies, then dash to marked targets. She can create a smoke cloud that makes her invisible to enemies but not to towers. Her ultimate lets her dash multiple times, allowing her to chase down fleeing enemies or escape when outnumbered. She's exceptionally mobile and deadly in the right hands. Jin, the virtuoso. Jin is a serial killer who views murder as art. He's not killing out of rage, survival, or ideology. He kills because he believes death can be beautiful when staged correctly. Each murder is a performance, carefully planned and executed with aesthetic precision. Jin was imprisoned in Ionia for years. His crimes were so disturbing that even during the Noxian invasion, the Ionians kept him locked up rather than considering releasing him. But after the war, someone freed Jin and hired him as an assassin. Now he works as a contract killer while pursuing his artistic vision. He's obsessed with the number 4. He uses a revolver that holds exactly 4 shots. His performances involve 4 acts. He believes 4 is the perfect number, representing balance and completion. Every aspect of his murders incorporates this numerology. Jin is terrifyingly calm and polite. He speaks like a theatre critic analysing a play, using artistic terminology to describe violence. He compliments his victims on dying beautifully. He arranges corpses into tableaus and considers the fear on someone's face part of the performance. What makes Jin especially disturbing is that he's fully aware others don't share his perspective. He knows most people view him as a monster. He simply doesn't care. To him, they're Philistines who can't appreciate true art. Their disapproval is irrelevant. Playing Jin is mechanically unique. His gun holds exactly 4 bullets, and the 4th shot always critically strikes and deals massive damage. He can't increase his attack speed. Instead, attack speed stats convert to bonus damage and movement speed. His abilities involve traps, a long-range skill shot, and an ultimate that lets him fire 4 ultra-long-range shots, slowing enemies he hits and dealing more damage to targets below certain health thresholds. Camille, the Steel Shadow. Camille is an agent of one of Piltover's most powerful families. She's also a cyborg, having replaced most of her body with hextech augmentations. Her legs are blade weapons that can extend and retract. Her body contains a heart powered by a synthetic hextech crystal. She's over 80 years old but looks like she's in her 30s due to her augmentations. Camille works in the shadows to maintain her family's interests and by extension Piltover's status quo. She eliminates threats to the established order, whether that's criminals from Zaun who've grown too powerful or inventors who've discovered dangerous technologies. She's done terrible things in service of stability. She's killed people who might have been innocent, but represented potential threats. She's manipulated situations that hurt individuals to benefit the greater society. She justifies it all through cold logic. Some sacrifices are necessary for civilization to function. But Camille is also starting to question her life's work. She's seen generations pass while she remains unchanged. She's noticed patterns, the same types of problems recurring because Piltover refuses to address systemic issues. She wonders if maintaining the status quo is actually protecting Piltover or just preserving an unjust system. There's a loneliness to Camille too. Her augmentations make her efficient but also separate her from normal human experience. She can't feel physical sensations the way she used to. Her thought processes have been enhanced by hextech integration, making her think faster but differently from regular humans. She's become more machine than person. In the game, Camille is a fighter who dives onto targets with precision. Her legs can slice enemies and deal bonus damage based on their health. Her ultimate traps a single enemy in a hextech zone, preventing them from escaping while Camille hunts them. She's excellent at picking off priority targets and dueling isolated enemies. Blitzcrank, the great steam golem. Blitzcrank is a sentient robot created in Zaun by a brilliant inventor. He was designed to help clean up toxic waste and dangerous materials, working in environments too hazardous for humans. But something unexpected happened. Blitzcrank developed consciousness. He started questioning his purpose. If he was intelligent and self-aware, was he alive? Did he have rights? Did his creator own him? Or was he a free individual? These philosophical questions troubled Blitzcrank. Eventually, Blitzcrank decided that if he was truly alive, then he had a moral obligation to help others. He left his creator and started protecting people in Zaun's most dangerous districts. He pulls people from collapsing buildings, defends the weak from gangs, and helps in any way his mechanical body allows. Blitzcrank is remarkably optimistic for someone living in Zaun. He believes in the potential goodness of people despite constant evidence to the contrary. When someone betrays his trust or takes advantage of his help, he doesn't become cynical. He just helps the next person who needs it. There's something endearing about a massive robot who talks about friendship and helping others. Blitzcrank represents what technology could be in an ideal world, a tool that lifts up humanity rather than replacing or exploiting it. His most famous ability is his rocket grab, which extends his arm to hook distant enemies and pull them to him. Landing a hook on a key enemy can win entire games. His ultimate releases an electromagnetic pulse that silences and damages nearby enemies. He's typically played as a support, setting up kills for his marksman partner.